Okay, so this demonstration is going to kind of break down how to use the clone stamp tool, which is a really awesome tool to use, and you guys are going to use it to edit a portrait. So you're going to want to find a picture of someone, hopefully you've been shooting, and you have a person who maybe has a few imperfections on their face that you can kind of tweak and correct using the clone stamp tool. So I'm using this lovely picture of myself with a pigeon on my head from our Europe trip last year to use to demonstrate. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when you open your picture is to, just like we did for some of the other transformations when we were using the dodge and burn tool, we need to make a copy of our background layer. This is so important when you're editing facial features because sometimes it can be really easy to go a little too far with the edits and things look a little too retouched or the edits are too obvious. So having the original in the same document will really help us be able to kind of flash back and forth to make sure we're not kind of going overboard with the edits that we're doing. So in Pixlr, once you have your image open, you're going to double click on the little lock icon to unlock it. You can rename it if it helps, original or something, and then we're going to duplicate it. So I'm just going to drag it to make a copy of the layer, and the one that's on top is the one that I'm going to edit. So I'm going to make sure that I have that layer highlighted, and that's the layer that I'm making the changes to. When you're using the clone stamp tool, you really got to be up close and personal to what you're editing. So use your navigator palette and zoom in so you can really see the imperfections in the facial features. So today I'm going to try to maybe minimize some of the lines, maybe camouflage some of the dark circles that are under my face, maybe fix any blemishes or smooth out any uneven skin tone. So anything that you see here can be applicable to whatever your facial feature issues are with the picture that you're working with. So now that I'm kind of zoomed in and I can really see the area that I'm working in, I'm going to grab the clone stamp tool. So this looks like a little rubber stamper. So you're going to click the tool, and just like when we use any other tool, the tool options bar at the top is going to change to reflect the different options and settings that tool can accommodate. So we're going to select a brush. I always recommend using one of these fuzzy brushes so it will kind of blend and taper out the edges to make any editing and retouching look more seamless. You can hover your mouse over and see that kind of outline around your tool to know how big or small the brush is. So you'll probably have to adjust. I'll start with this 50, that's pretty good. Depending on some of the other areas I'm working in, I might want to go bigger or smaller. The opacity is how thick the new layer that you're kind of painting on is going to be. So you might want to start a little bit more around 50 or 60, and you can adjust up and down as needed. So the clone stamp tool is a really powerful tool that works in two steps. The first step is you need to tell the clone stamp tool where you want to pick up the pixels from. So I'm looking at these kind of lines next to my eyes, and I want to find an area of skin that's about the same color, and I want to say maybe around this area it looks pretty similar. This is a little too light, this is a little too pink, this could work too. I'll start with maybe this part of my cheek. The color and the tone looks pretty similar, so I want to pull these pixels that are looking nice and smooth and even, and I'm going to kind of pick them up and copy them and paint them on top of these pixels that has the imperfections. I can probably even blend out this kind of scar that's in my eyelid as well too while I'm doing it. So like I said, two-step process. First, and the computer's going to remind you, if you accidentally just click, the computer, a little warning should come up. I've been playing around with this, but a little warning should come up telling you that you need to hold Control and click first to define a source point, to define where you want to pull those pixels from. So you're going to need to pull the pixels, and when you hold Control, you'll see the cursor kind of change. I'm going to say this is the target. I want to pull the pixels from this spot. So I hold Control and click, pick up the pixels, and now I can kind of paint with those pixels. And I can kind of do this a few times. I can define a few different source points. So maybe I want to kind of pick some darker skin tone there and kind of click and drag and define where I want to pull from and kind of click and drag. And now you can see I've kind of blended out most of the wrinkles. There's still one there, so maybe I can pick from down there and just kind of blend it out. All right. This is where having those two layers is going to be super helpful. So you can turn that little check mark off and we'll hide this layer and go back to the original. So you can see kind of before and after. And this will give you a good indication if you've gone a little too far and things look a little unrealistic or maybe too plasticky or too smooth. So keep using those two layers to your advantage to kind of check your work as you're going on. You can always, remember, use your history palette and step back through time if you need to kind of maybe take it back a notch and not go so extreme. Like maybe I went a little too far with my kind of wrinkle removing, and I just want to subtly remove them without making it super plasticky. So now I can step back through time, and again, big improvement, okay? I can maybe work on the kind of dark area underneath my eye too. So again, you're going to need to find a good place where you want to pull the pixels from. Control click. Maybe for this I need a bigger brush. So maybe here I want to bump the brush up maybe to about 70. And maybe I want to lower the opacity. Maybe I want this to be a little bit more subtle so I don't remove all of the shadowing underneath, but just kind of smooth away the dark. So just kind of brighten it up. Again, it doesn't look super fake. I can go back to the original. It looks a lot better just with one kind of click of the brush. I can use this little hand tool. This is really helpful when you're zoomed in to kind of move and reposition the frame. So you can use that. Maybe I want to see if I can smooth out that under eye circle as well. So again, I had this area already selected. If I didn't redefine, it would pull from there, which might or might not be a good pixel match. So always remember to continually resample by holding, oh, and see I went over too far and now I'm pulling some of those dark pixels from the coat. So I'm going to want to undo that and be a little bit more cautious about where that little crosshair is moving so I don't accidentally paint someone's coat on my face. I can continually resample and just kind of smooth things out if I need to. I could kind of work my way around the face doing this. If there were any other imperfections that I wanted to smooth out, the clone stamp is an excellent way to do that. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to again go before and after. So you can see I look a few years younger, which is never a bad thing, just by doing a few quick, simple edits. Now, a few things you want to watch out for. If you're zoomed way out and you start editing, you're going to kind of run into some trouble. So make sure you're zoomed in. Otherwise, here are some pitfalls. Let's say, and I don't know why you'd ever want to do this, but let's say I want to make myself have 2 rows of eyebrows. Okay, I might forget and I might be zoomed out. I grab the clone stamp. I'll also show you what happens if you use a harder edge brush. So I'm going to switch to this brush that has a really crisp defined edge, which is something we want to avoid. And I'm going to make the opacity 100, which again is something you probably want to avoid when you're using the clone stamp tool. I'm going to define the eyebrow as my source point, control click, and now I can paint and draw in a second eyebrow. Looks a little crazy and creepy, but maybe for your free choice manipulation, you want to start doing some crazy things. Maybe you want to have another eye. So I'm going to define my eye. Maybe I want an eyeball in my cheek. Okay. Maybe I want a second mouth on my forehead. Okay. So you can kind of pick up pixels from one area and paint them in. Now, from a distance, it might look okay, but if I were to zoom in on this, you can see that hard edge brush doesn't blend and taper things in all that well. So I'm going to step back through time. I'm going to get rid of that mouth. I'm going to get rid of the eye. I'm going to try the eye again if I wanted it to look more believable. A way that I could do that, reposition my window here, is again using a more fuzzy brush and changing the opacity a little bit. And that will still show some of the texture and kind of value changes underneath, but it will help it blend in a little bit better. So you can see what a powerful tool that is when you can use that fuzzy edge brush and you can use lower opacity. So now it really does scarily almost look believable that I have a third eye coming out of my cheek, because we don't have, like we have above, those really hard edges. So it looks, you know, again, it helps things blend and look more seamless. So again, your point is not to make a freak looking person, but it's to really just try to enhance the appearance of whatever person you're using for your clone stamp. So find a picture that has some imperfections that you can tweak and adjust. It could be a selfie. It could be a picture of someone, maybe your mom, when they just woke up without makeup on. Find a picture that has room for improvement and make some believable enhancements. Don't forget to duplicate the layer so you can constantly go back to the before and the after without having to look at two different pictures side by side. It can be really effective when you can just use that check mark to turn the visibility of that layer on and off. The clone stamp tool, like you've seen, can also be used for some fun, crazy manipulations. So this might be one of the tools that you end up using for your free choice manipulation. It can be really useful for like cleaning up background elements too. So let's say if I wanted to kind of zoom in on these little birds down here and maybe remove them from the picture, very easy to do because this has a nice solid kind of even background. I can maybe use a larger brush, maybe use a more intense opacity, sample, and then continually kind of like resample. And you can see very easily you can remove any little imperfections. I might have to go over this a couple times just to really get rid of the bird and its shadow and any other details that might be there. Oh, see, I went over too far. Now I'm picking up some of my jacket. So I might want to like step back through time or just kind of remind myself to continually resample. But this can be a really cool way of kind of cleaning up any background elements as well. A little too much. There we go. So that second bird is gone. Again, before and after. It probably wouldn't work very well to get rid of all these people because I don't know what is behind them. Clearly these trees would come down a little bit more. There's a base of a sculpture. There's a lot going on. I couldn't really remove this hand because I don't know what the top of the girl's head looks like. So it's not the only tool that you would want to use, and it's not the best tool for every situation, but it can be pretty powerful and pretty useful for doing some edits to facial features and retouching. So I hope the tutorial has been helpful. Feel free, if you have any questions, to ask a classmate or email me a question today while I'm not in the classroom, but we can look at this a little bit more next week as well. So good luck today, and I hope this was helpful. Bye.